Thought forms and the question of mediumship, or telepathy. Let me introduce you to Russell Cornell, a member of the Just Talk One-on-One, Weird Experience, meetup group. The conversation between Russell and I turned out to be a very interesting interview. However, I got the impression Russell was skeptical, but curious about how I conduct the Just Talk One-on-One Weird Experiences group, and was not sure what to expect. The following are highlights of our conversation. Russell lost his father about a year ago, and his best friend from childhood about 3 years ago. He had a desire to talk to them, but wasn't sure he should try, or if he even believed it was possible, or if it was right for him to try. Most people are taught, trying to communicate with the dead is a sin, and that what really happens is you invite negative entities, rather than the actual person you wanted to contact. I am not so sure about that belief. Nevertheless, since I am not a professed medium, I did not tell him it was possible to do this, but during our conversation, I was able to ask him questions about certain events in his life, that only his best friend might have known the answer to. There were times when I would ask a question, and he would give the answer that matched my thoughts, even though he didn't know I was thinking it. The question that comes to my mind, is this mediumship or telepathy? What I experienced while talking to Russell, was a vision, of a lake with trees, and it was as if I was standing on a hill, looking down at the lake through the trees. Russell confirmed that he and his friend would often visit such a place, and swim out to the middle of it, where they could stand in a shallow spot. Sadly, I could not get a message, or anything I thought was significant, about Russell's father. However, I could see the hospice room his father was in and a man in a hospital gown. I saw what appeared to be a tall slim man with socks on. It was as if I was standing at a distance, and observing this man lying in the bed, with the back of his hospital gown showing, and lying on his right side. There was a sense of sadness about what I saw, and there was a chair in the room that sat against the wall near the foot of his bed. I don't know how these visions happen, and I don't claim to be a medium. Although this is not the first time I've had such an experience. What I do know is this: when I have a conversation with someone, I tend to pick up certain images, words, names, or thoughts. I am not always sure if what I see or pick up actually has anything to do with the person I am talking with. In this case, there were two people, named Brad and Tommy, who seemed to be in the room with us, but Russell could only recall someone who went by the name Tom. I must confess, when this happens, I am not always sure the person I'm talking to is being honest or just going along with what I am saying. Most people seem to be impressed by this perception of a gift. Sometimes what I see or feel has nothing to do with the client. I suppose it helps to come across as wrong about some things, that way I can leave the conversation feeling like it was a real experience, and it proves that mediumship is not an exact science. Something people should understand, is spirits don't always answer when you call, and sometimes they will call you, when you least expect it. Honestly, I don't like the way I feel, after having these experiences, because they tend to take me outside of myself, in a sense, but that's just my hang-up. Anyway, enough about me. In the beginning of our conversation, Russell told me about the only weird experience he has ever had, or can remember. And it reminded me of something called thought forms. This event happened to him twice. About 20 years ago in 1996, he was rooming with someone, and while asleep in his own bed, he was awakened by a strange white cloudy figure, with dark-colored eyes. Russell does not consider himself to be a religious person, but he recalled his mother had visions, that often came true, and they did go to church when he was a child. Russell remembers talking to a minister about what he saw, and was told it was a demon. Although the description he gave of the account reminded me of the Philip experiment and thought forms. Nevertheless, Russell is convinced what he experienced was truly a demon. He also remembered being told that if he ever saw a demon to pray and command the demon to leave in the name of Jesus, which he did the second time he was visited, and was never visited again, by the strange apparition. Whatever that phantom of the night was, it was believed to be strong enough to cause the light bulb in his room to blow and break when he flipped the switch to turn the light on. At least that is his remembrance. Most people would write this off as the bulb just blowing out, as light bulbs do. However, the timing is what makes this occurrence a significant coincidence. Russell also reports that others living in and visiting that particular place might have had similar experiences while he was living in the house. But none reported having the same experience he did. When asked about drug or alcohol use during his experience, Russell denies having been under the influence at that particular time. Russell is not a firm believer in the paranormal, and his knowledge comes mostly from the stories he's heard from other people. Yet there still seems to be some curiosity on his part, because so many people proclaim to have had strange and unexplainable experiences. In conclusion, I believe the more Russell educates himself about paranormal or weird experiences, the more he will begin to recognize those that are probably occurring in his life, but he is overlooking. Once the fear of the unknown is removed, it is then people tend to open up to learning and acceptance. Culturally, American people are taught to resist and turn a blind eye to spiritual and unexplained matters. However, this can lead to great confusion, self-doubt, and often a psychological diagnosis that could be better treated with education of the paranormal. After our conversation, I shared some material with Russell to help him get a clearer understanding of his experience, and my understanding of what happened to him. The first was a YouTube video titled, Negative Thought Form Entities, published by Crystal N. Compton. The second resource was an online article titled, The Philip Experiment, Creating a Ghost. Disclosure: the testimony you have read, or are listening to, was shared by Russell Cornell, and he has given his permission to share pictures and his story. I can never confirm or deny that these are true events, but because I have had my own weird experiences, I feel it is only fair to accept anecdotal documentation as true until proven false. Thank you for listening. This message is brought to you by I am Junneen. At Just Talk One-on-One, we provide psychotherapeutic services, combined with alternative counseling and person-centered coaching.